Hey, this is Misha from Periphery, and I'm here over at Jackson to talk to you about my USA Lambo Matte Orange signature models. For those of you familiar with the HT6 and HT7 USA models, especially the quilt variants, this is really similar actually. It's just got a matte orange, Matte Lambo Orange paint job over it, but it's got the taped off binding. So this is a really thick top. It's 5/8 of an inch, and it's a gorgeous top, but it's painted over and you're just really getting the binding out of it, which I personally think is kind of awesome. And that's why it looks so gorgeous. And this Matte Lambo Orange has a bit of a pearlescence to it, which I don't know if you guys can see in the camera, but I was very picky with the particular hue and shade of this one, and the guys at Jackson nailed it. Feature-wise, it's pretty much the same. So we've got all the awesome, unique features, like for example, the bare knuckle Juggernaut set, which I believe this is like the only guitar that comes standard with a bare knuckle humbucker in the world. And we've got stainless steel frets, which are just a must-have for me because they never wear. That's on a 20-inch radius, really flat fretboard, ebony fretboard. We've got a quarter sawn maple neck because I tour so much, and this thing just has to be able to go from the US to Australia to Japan and back and, you know, still be playable. And this holds up so well on the road. We've got locking tuners here, these gorgeous hip shot open gear locking tuners, which not only have the live tuning stability, but they don't really have much play to them, so it's very quick to sort of get them in tune. We've got a tusk nut here, I believe. And on the other end, we've got a hip shot hardtail bridge, which I think is really comfortable, but also sounds, I've realized now how much of a difference the bridge will make to the sound of the guitar. And this just sounds fantastic. It's super comfortable. But again, with this being a touring guitar, all of these guitars have to be basically my guitar. So, you know, you adjust the intonation here, the screwdriver. You adjust the saddle height here. Super easy to maintain on the road. Going on to the back side of the guitar, we have what I call this handshake heel here, which basically what it's doing in conjunction with this really wide carve here is just giving you as much upper fret access as you could possibly get on a bolt-on guitar, whilst also having the necessary stability, because I do tend to kind of do stupid stuff on stage, and this guitar does need to stay together. But basically, it sort of was designed to fit your hand kind of perfectly, hence the name handshake heel. And this carve will really, especially if you play with good technique, which I don't, but if you do and you have your thumb on the back here, you really will take advantage of all that extra carve space there. We've got these Dunlop strap locks here, the dual design, so you can put regular straps or the included strap that comes with it and the locking pins so that your guitar will never fall off. It has never fallen off. And because I like pointy things on my guitar, but I didn't want this to be on the back because that's just a pet peeve of mine, the wonderful guys at Jackson have designed this, the engineers I should say, designed this sort of, I guess it's a dowel that's put in place there. So it's got a very stable platform so that you can have strap B at both ends here and your guitar will be very stable on your body. And last but not least, we've got these lumen lays. I don't know if you guys can see that, but these things are so cool. They glow in the dark. You just charge them up before show. I mean, literally being in this room would be enough to charge them up. And when it's dark, like it is so often for me on stage, because our light show does not care about me, I can actually see where I'm at on the guitar just by seeing the glow of these dots. And because it's just kind of glowing, it doesn't light up your face or anything obvious like that, like an LED would. So I really am a huge fan of that. I guess the only other thing to talk about is the switching system, which is just 5-way switch. So we've got the humbucker positions, full bridge, both full neck, but then the split positions are interesting. This is one of my favorite sounds. It's the split inner coils. And then we have in the fourth position the split outer coils, which gives you this very sort of chimey sound. And this tone knob is actually bypassed the whole time until you lift it up. So I actually like the sound of a guitar without tone knob. Tone knob will take some of the high end out of the pickups. And when you lift it up, it'll activate it, so you can sort of lock it into position, call it in whenever you need it. So I actually use that at strategic points in the set, but then when I want it off, bam, just like that, good to go. So this second position here on the switch is the split coil setting, and it just gives you this really sort of bright and beautiful clean sound. Like if we were to contrast it really quickly between the bridge, which I would say is like really sort of fat and warm sounding. So that's the split coil. You hear the bridge is like warm, which is great for certain things. But if I want that note definition, you know, that really sparkly tone, I just think that's really sweet for that. And the fourth position gives you this like really, I call it chimey, I'm not really sure. But those are two settings I really like for clean sounds or mid-gain sounds. I really won't use them so much for like full-on rhythm tones or anything like that, but I think that they're really, really cool and beautiful and kind of cut through the mix in a really interesting way. So those were must-have settings for the guitar. The hardtail bridges do sound different from, say, floating bridges. I don't exactly know the science, and I think there's a lot of pseudoscience behind it, and really, unless you actually took the guitar, carved in, you know, a route for another bridge, it'd be sort of difficult to tell. But I've played around with so many bridges and started to notice patterns, and some will be brighter than others, and they'll affect the attack of the string, the sort of how the strings resonate even. Stuff that I'd say you feel against your body when you're playing the guitar, and that to me is really important. I found that the hip shot is just the most balanced, really. And I also found that that's what I wanted. I think at one point in time I thought maybe I'd want something brighter, but I've realized that that really should be the pickup or even the amp's job at some point. That's where that tone should be shaped. The guitar itself should really be more about balance. And I think most everything that you find on the guitar is geared towards that. That's not really pushed in any one direction towards being bright or dark or whatever. So that's why this bridge makes a lot of sense. And there are other hardtail bridges or using different materials for the saddles or for the nut that will sort of shape how that sounds. And you know, you can always swap those out if you prefer that. But I figured starting with a point of balance would be great, and this is the perfect combo. So to my left, I have the HT7, which is the 7-string model, which looks extremely similar, despite the fact that it has a 7th string. One thing I actually forgot to touch on earlier was the scale length. So this is 25.5 inches, which to me is the perfect 6-string scale length. However, with the 7-string, and we are tuning this one down to drop A flat, I really found that it needed a little bit more, and 26.5 seemed to be the perfect scale length. I've experimented with all sorts over the years, and this just seems to be the one that I always came back to the point now where everything else will feel a bit weird. The reason behind that is you get a bit more tension, and the lower string will intonate a little bit better. If you go a little too long, your high strings will suffer. Your bends and vibrato feel very weird because you have to give it a lot more. And on top of that, it actually makes the top strings sound pretty thin after a certain point. I don't actually like to go past 27 at all for that reason, and that's what my 8 strings are. So 25.5, 26.5 are the scale length differences. But other than that, It's pretty much the same. We've got the bare knuckle 7-string Juggernaut set in this one, obviously, and you know the equivalent bridge and nuts. But the hardware and the wiring and everything is the same. And I found that the guys at Jackson have done such a good job of making the guitar feel consistent. Because 6 and 7-string guitars are pretty different, but they feel like the same guitar, just with an extra string, which is really fantastic. I can't necessarily say that about every 6-string that has a 7-string variant. Now, we use the 7-string and the 6-string and actually some 8-string stuff, but most of our material, and actually all the material on Periphery 3 is all 6 and 7-string. And the 7-string's just, in some ways, it's a different instrument. I have a lot of people asking me like, oh, well, you know, should I just get a 7-string because it has a 6-string in it, which is technically correct, but I would argue that if I were to write a song from an idea on a 6 and a 7 in sort of parallel universes, they would come out very, very different because just of the nature of the guitar. I find that I tend to write more notey and playful stuff on the 6, and I tend to write more sort of chords and heavier stuff and groovy stuff on the 7. There's always exceptions to the rule, of course, but you know, I sort of know how I sit with both instruments, and when I have an idea, I'll be like, okay, you know, let's see what this sounds like on the 7, and I'll kind of just go back between the two until I'm like, all right, this is the instrument that sounds best on. So the color relates to our new album, Periphery 3, Select Difficulty. Our albums always have a big P logo, our Periphery logo on it, and some color theme, and orange and black were the colors that we went with this time around, so this fits it pretty much perfectly. I'll tell you an interesting story. So we were recording Periphery 3 and this guitar arrived. This was the one to approve, you know, to make sure that everything was good, everything was as I asked. And literally, so it arrived in the morning and we were recording that day, and up until that point we had been using my matte blue one, which was my favorite one for recording at that point in time, and that one was the one that was set up, ready to go. So we literally switched to this guitar that day and didn't stop using it, and it's been my main recording 6 since then. There's something really special about it. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I did notice that this is the only quilt top one that has a matte finish on it, which I don't know if that helps it breathe or resonate a bit more. You know, all these little things make a little difference. So this is actually a really special guitar, and it's probably just going to be my main for the foreseeable future.